in the NFL, pure skill and talent. I still think he's better than a lot of quarterbacks. I think he's better than Russell Wilson right now. I do. He's definitely better for the price because Russell Wilson's way more expensive, as crazy as that sounds. And we'll see. I mean, I think Rodgers has a pretty easy time fitting into teams early. I think he has a hard time. He's such an enigma that I think it's hard for teammates to be around him for an elongated period of time. He comes with so much baggage. I just don't know if Mike Tomlin's going to allow any of that. So I think you're also pairing Rodgers with a really good defense. That was supposed to be the case in New York, but the Jets defense just took a step back, even though they have great personnel, Sauce Gardner and a variety of great defensive linemen, first-round draft picks all over the place. They weren't that good on defense, though, and not that good on offense, not that good on defense means you're just not that good, and it was a disappointing year last year for the Jets. The Steelers are a playoff team. They have a salty defense, so I expect the Steelers to be a playoff team again. I think it would take a pretty catastrophic season. They're in a tough division, and you never know. You might have, luck's got to go your way. You got to get injuries to go your way, but I think that even though there is a lot of baggage, even though Aaron Rodgers is of an advanced age, even though he has had a pretty serious injury not too long ago, I still think this is an upgrade for the Steelers at quarterback. So we'll hash this out a little bit more with Raheem Seabrook tomorrow, but that's the news of the day on the national sports level. In the Big Sky Conference, they announced the representatives for each and every school for the Big Sky kickoff. The way this works for media days is each Big Sky football team sends their head coach, an offensive player, and a defensive player. You know all the head coaches' names. The Montana guys that are representing are familiar names to us because I think most of the guys that play for the Cats and the Grizz are familiar names. And when I say us, I mean the collective sports-following public in Montana. But for the Grizz, Dylan Botner, who's a returning super senior offensive lineman, kid from Whitefish who decided to run it back and use his last year eligibility. And then Killen Dietrich, who's a senior defensive lineman from Havre, who has hardly played. And I don't know if this is indicative of him getting a bigger role this year. He has been pretty banged up during the last several years. So I don't know if them bringing him is indicative of him playing a bigger role or if this is just sort of an award for the young man as somebody that's made it to the end. And maybe he does play more as a senior. We'll see. For the Cats, JT Reed, a kid who was an All-Big Sky player 2 years ago, had an injury that cost him most of last year. Now he's back. He's expected to be an anchor of the interior offensive line for Montana State. He's a great story. He's a kid that really struggled in school. He was non-qualifier coming out of high school. Went to a junior college, thought he was qualified for Montana State, wasn't, went back to a junior college, then came back to Montana State. But several years later now, he just earned his degree. MSUBobcats.com had a great story about that. And it's just impressive when guys have a hard time with class, but then they figure out a way to get it done and they get a degree. That's a life-changing thing. That's cool. That's what college sports is supposed to be all about. And then the Bobcat representative on the defensive side, Kenneth Iden, defensive end who was an All-Big Sky player a year ago. Remove those four from the ratio here, and I'm not going to go through every single one of these names because I don't want to bore you reading 20 full names of players. But the players' names that are like, oh, they jump out, you're like, I definitely know who that guy is. He's going to be one of the headliners in the league. Ty Pennington, a quarterback from Northern Arizona, is probably one of those. Rex Connors, certainly from UC Davis. He's an returning All-American as a defensive back, a safety. Jared Taylor, you know him because he was one of the quarterbacks in a sort of a three-quarterback rotation for Eastern Washington last year. Kakova Vesperis, of course, transferred to Tennessee Tech. And Michael Wortham transferred to Montana. And so Jared Taylor's the last man standing there at Eastern Washington. You'd have to think that Wortham would probably be the guy at Eastern, but guess what? He doesn't play for Eastern. He plays for the Grizz. But Taylor's a name you recognize, certainly. Nate Azzopardi, who was an all-conference offensive lineman for Idaho, a guy that went in the portal, then came back out and decided to stay when Thomas Ford got the job. He'll be a headlining guy in the Big Sky, one of the best offensive linemen in the league. And that's about it. I mean, I'm an offensive lineman geek, so I know who Gavin Ortega is, the offensive lineman from Weber State. I think he'll be a preseason all-conference guy. And Michael Briscoe from Cal Poly, he caught some balls last year, but he's like an honorable mention all-league guy. But other than that, there's a lot of guys on here who I have to look them up to truly definitively know who they are. And then there's a bunch of guys on here that I don't know who they are. And yeah, I mean, I've dedicated my life to following Big Sky Conference football. So I think this is a conversation not necessarily of that the returners in the league being weak. I think it's more of the returners in the league just being unknown. And I think there's reason for that. Andrew and I talked about this earlier this week. All the guys that were seniors last year are guys that came in 2019 or 2020. If you redshirted in 2019, then you got an extra redshirt year in 2020 if you stayed at your same program in the Big Sky because there was no season that year. So you basically get a whole extra year of development, and by the time you're a fifth or sixth year guy, you have like an extra cycle of fall camps and spring balls without that extra season in there. Same thing in 2020, you get a free redshirt year. Then if you redshirt in 2021 again, now you get that same extra time. I think those guys were hogging a lot of spots on depth charts across the Big Sky Conference. Now I think most of those guys have graduated. So you see this. Ty Pennington is the headlining quarterback in the league that's coming back this year. How about this, though? He's the only quarterback besides Jared Taylor from Eastern Washington that is represented at the Big Sky Kickoff. Usually you got 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks on the list. There's hardly any offensive skill guys. Basically, everybody's bringing offensive linemen to this deal. I mean, Samuel Gabutu of UC Davis, who not really sure much about his story. Michael Briscoe from Cal Poly. Those are the only receivers. So, Andrew, this is just an interesting list. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it says a lot about the Big Sky Conference in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it was shocking to me looking at that list today. I mean, I think you got 8 out of the 12 teams are bringing a defensive lineman. Normally you got like a bunch of guys who've racked up like 80 to 100 tackles at linebacker. You know who they are from the year before. It's just shocking to me, and I don't think it's good or bad. It's just this is not what we've been used to going into a Big Sky season in a long time. I mean, even the transfer portal, the extra COVID year, all that stuff has been around for 5 years now, and I've never had as little name value coming to the Big Sky Kickoff, which is just a proxy for how little name value, returning name value there is across the league. Again, it's not a bad thing. That just means there are a bunch of new people in the league whose names we're going to know by the middle of October, but it's just interesting to think about.
You want to know what's crazy, though? Is there is absolute name value and I think pretty good knowledge amongst everybody that follows Big Sky Conference football about every single coach that's going to be there, with the exception of probably Mickey Mental, who's like the one outlier that's not part of this strange fraternity, and then the other guy who's crashing the party in Brendan Marion, who might have graduated high school like 5 years ago, but he's the youngest coach in the league by far. He's already taken the league by storm, even though he hasn't coached a single game. And he'll be fascinating to talk to with this at Sacramento State. I expect him to have a lot of attention here. But other than that, you're talking about guys that have been in the league forever, guys that have been in and out of the league, guys that came back to the league. The coaches have massive brand name recognition on this list.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. The coaches in the Big Sky Conference have the most celebrity value, I think, relative to the players in the league is any league in the country. I mean, it's different than like the SEC or something where you got a bunch of name brand coaches, but you also have a ton of like name brand players.
No doubt. Like even Ryan Day, for example, he's the head coach of the defending national champions. He overshadows none of his good players. No. Right? There's 20 guys on Ohio State that overshadow them. There's a lot of reasons for the why of what I'm about to say, but guys like Brent Vegan and Bobby Houck overshadow everything. Like, but same thing with Bruce Barnum and Aaron Beston. I mean, you're right. The omnipresent, most dominant figure in basically every football program in the Big Sky Conference is their head coach, including the man who's won more games than any other coach in the Big Sky during his first 4 seasons at the helm. That's Montana State's head coach. We got up earlier this week. Our latest Big Sky Spotlight as we make the rounds around the Big Sky Conference off-season style. I thought it was a good time to touch base with Montana State because yesterday they made the official announcement of several names you've probably been hearing if you follow anything on social media, but sort of a conglomeration of an announcement yesterday with 5 new incoming recruits to the Bobcat football program. This time of year, it seems like recruiting never quits, but Brett Vegan, the head coach of the Bobcats, here to talk about that and also other maybe some other stuff about the offseason. But, Coach, first of all, thanks for being here. How you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, it's great to be back at it. Our guys returned yesterday for summer workouts. That was really the conjunction with the release yesterday to let this team continue on into the summer and kind of take its new form as it did.
But it's interesting. We were talking about this on the show yesterday, or I guess earlier this week. For so long, it was always one signing day in February that you were kind of building towards, and then maybe you'd add some mid-year guys here or there. But now there's an early signing period, a later signing period. Then, you try to get guys that are mid-year. Then you have some guys that maybe leave after spring, so you got some new roster spots. So how do you sort of treat this latest newer period, the one from post spring ball to when you report here for summer workouts from a recruiting standpoint?
Well, you're constantly building your roster, right? That's where you start. And really, I guess, this period through May and really the second semester for us was a reflection of kind of where we felt our roster was as far as returners mid-season. I think we felt pretty good about, our roster moving forward mid-season. We played as late as we did. We had a few more losses than we thought we might. But also we played on the 6th. School started on the 14th. So turning that around would have, I think, to bring in all kinds of numbers would have been, I think, more of a mistake than anything else. We did bring a couple transfers in that we were moving on to some degree at the beginning of the second semester, but it was really a long term or a long play to say, okay, when we get out of the second semester, we'd like to add a receiver, we'd like to add a running back, we'd like to add a corner. And we did that. And obviously the quarterback thing was moving too. Justin had visited us the week of the South Dakota semifinal game. So, it's always moving. And then I think you also can make a reaction then to your spring ball. What does your spring ball look like? Do you feel good about maybe a bunch of those returning guys that I alluded to, going back to mid-season? And by and large we did. So yeah, here we are. We've added 5 more names, and there's maybe potential to still add one at the most. But really, the greater statement is we're continuing to build it from the ground up. High school guys that come here and develop and make their way.
You mentioned the timing. You guys played the national championship game, and then school starts, what, a week later? I mean,
Yeah.
6, 7 days later. So that's not a lot of time if you're going to try to fill in some blanks, especially if you had guys leave, like you guys did have a couple that left. So what do you think of that, though? Because obviously you want to be playing in Frisco in January every single year, but it seems like a disadvantage in that element of recruiting because there's other teams that maybe have been able to recruit the portal for 4, 5, 6 weeks when you only have, 4, 5, 6 days.
Yeah, that's why, again, trying to be ahead of it, October, November, and say, okay, what positions do we feel like that's going to be the route we want to go? And for us, we decided quarterback was going to be one of them. So we had a visit, like I alluded to back in December, and then safety was potentially another one. We had a visit there. Ultimately, we brought in a couple candidates at mid-year, but otherwise, yeah, to react at that time and turn anything around within a week. At a disadvantage. So again, your ability to predict, the guys that might depart is a key element. And we were probably surprised by a couple again, and it wasn't a deal where we wanted to make a mistake in the moment. So let's play the long game and figure this out through the course of the semester. So, how does that change moving forward? I don't know, because the complicated thing is the window is the window. Your time to visit them prior to the semester starting is a really condensed time. And until there's some kind of change relative to the second semester, that's going to be complicated for everybody because you got the holidays smack dab in the middle where, recruiting has never been a big part of that stretch. And I think we're going to continue to do everything we can to not make it a recruiting time between Christmas and New Year's. So the calendar is complicated, and there's no easy fix. I think if there was an easy fix, it would have been fixed. And the second portal window in the spring, while there's been talks of going away from it, that hasn't happened yet. So, until that does change, we'll have this second wave of recruiting that is coming out of spring ball, and yeah, it's you just got to keep evolving and for how much you want to stay ahead of it, there's plenty of reactionary moves that are part of our recruiting these days.
Brett Vegan joining us here on the Big Sky Spotlight. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, or maybe you're watching on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series. Last big picture question for you, then we'll talk about some of these new additions. When it comes to obviously you want to get to know these guys as much as you possibly can, football, but also otherwise. I know that's a big part of your program at Montana State. So, how do you go about vetting potential transfer additions or even high school recruits at this point, and sort of figuring out their personalities and if they fit into what you want within the structure of your program?
Yeah, ideally the high school model can be a long play. It can be the play that still does include multiple visits, getting to know them individually, getting to know their families, getting in their high school, getting great information from not only the high school coach but people in the high school. Not that it always happens that way, but hopefully, especially within our region, within the state of Montana in particular, that can be the case. Now, on the transfer side, to think there's going to be a lot of long-term development of a relationship, you're kidding yourself. So, you still try to figure out any connections you might have, whether that's a coach at the place that they came from, a high school tie some way, somehow. It's certainly helpful with guys that you've recruited, like Justin Lamson. For me, I recruited him back. It seems like a long time ago when I was still at Wyoming, but we had that previous relationship developed. But that's not going to be the case all the time either. So you just try to work as quickly as you can. Try to get face to face as fast as you can, and get a good feel. And that's that's not a perfect science by any means. I think we've referred to it. I think everybody does kind of as speed dating, which I think we all know is probably not a real good deal. So do the best you can, and ideally for us, those opportunities are going to be limited each and every year because we have the next guy generally coming up through our program.
Well, start with Justin Lamson. Then, when it comes to these new signees, he's a guy that's sort of been in the ethos that people have been talking about. Him coming to Montana State. But you mentioned you recruited him way back at Wyoming. What did you like about him then? How have you seen him evolve now? And what do you like about adding him to the Montana State program?
Yeah, getting to know him a little bit and watching him, as a high school player, felt like he had the dual threat ability. Really was more of a thrower and was really effective. Just liked, generally speaking, his competitive nature. Seemed like a real intelligent young man. Loved kind of the football background within his family. His dad being an ex-college and NFL guy, and then his brother, I think, was probably at Davis at that time or just had went to Davis. So I just there was a lot of good to just the complete package. And then it was the COVID years, so I still remember. I mean, he came to Laramie, and I couldn't even talk to him. I would look out the window and gave him a wave, I guess, as he drove by my office. But shortly thereafter, I think his interest then, was I went to Syracuse, and that's where he ended up going. So we obviously moved on, but kept tabs on him, and then knew he had gone to Stanford, and when Troy had gotten that job, Troy Taylor did, and I know he'd played a bunch there. So when his name popped up, in the portal, late part of fall, it certainly piqued our interest.
So, for people who have never seen the portal, I think they think of it as like this ethereal, weird thing. It's just a database of information, right? But
Right.
do you have somebody that like this might be a stupid question, but do you have somebody that gets alerts or something? Like when a guy's name pops in the portal, how long does it take you and your staff to like notice
It's really a matter of monitoring it.
checking it all the time, I'm sure.
Daily. And then I think social media wise,
Right.
a lot of, I mean, that becomes your alert in a lot of cases. And then there's different recruiting sites that at least follow the FBS side of it pretty closely. So yeah, there's no, you can buy different software too, I think, to probably get access to information maybe a little quicker than we do. But I know I think we feel pretty good about at least how we monitor it and being able to keep tabs on who's entering.
Yeah. Tell me about Chris Long, wide receiver transfer from Rutgers. I was trying to think if I'd ever heard of a transfer from Rutgers to the Big Sky Conference. He might be a first one when it comes to that. How'd that relationship start?
Yeah, we receiver was that long play through the course of the semester. I think we were Coach Mix in particular taking over that position. We vetted quite a few as we went through it. We were looking for an experienced older guy. Whether he had 1 or 2 years left, that was kind of what we sought in this opportunity. And there's all kinds of scenarios out there for people transferring, and some can work, some can't. And I say that especially those older guys that have not graduated, that becomes complicated. So saying that there was a couple kids that were in the portal, but we couldn't move to get them in as late as they were as far as their approach to graduation. And then Chris came up, and Chris was graduating, and so that allowed us a few weeks, if not even a month, to start building a relationship. I think initially, when he went in the transfer portal, he intended to go to Syracuse, but because he wasn't graduating mid-year, ultimately that didn't happen. So he's been in the portal now, or had been in the portal going back to early December, I believe. So I think, needless to say, I think it lined up for us a guy that has a year that's done some things. He's certainly flashed over an extended period of time at Rutgers. Never got traction necessarily as the guy. Chris is a competitive young man that I think he'd like to be the guy, but I think he also really identified with our program and the success we've had and how we go about things. So he rolled in this past weekend, and really excited to get him going and see where he fits within that receiving core.
Bryce Parker, a defensive back from Reno. Do you look at him as more of a safety? Because you mentioned that was a priority.
We're looking at him as a corner. Yeah, we want it, ultimately in Andrew Pauldrill's departure, it was, that's why we wanted to get a corner. I know we feel really good about our young redshirt freshman corners, in particular, McMillan, Seth Johnson. Those guys had really good springs along with Carson Williams. But there's a level to Bryce where he brings his time at the junior college level, his time, even though he didn't play much at Nevada, that he just brings an older, mature presence there. So, and he was really looking for opportunity. And I think, again, whether it's the stars aligning or it's really about, okay, what we're looking for, it matches up, and our opportunity matches up what he's looking for. And I really felt that pretty quickly with Bryce. He was coached by Joey Thomas last year, former Bobcat, and I think Joey had a lot of good positive things to say about Bryce, even though he didn't play a lot. They had a good secondary there at Nevada, and I think he really that helped us along with just Bryce with who he was and what he was looking for.
And Cale Breslin from BYU, as cliche as this might sound, he looks like a running back that's going to fit in very well on your offense.
Yeah, that opportunity came about, really late in spring, and again, what we're looking for ideally a younger guy, with Julius and Adam at the top of our depth chart. This isn't this need for this guy to come in and be anything right away. But I think at the same time, I hope we have an opportunity, what we've done with our running backs, that a lot of young guys would relish. And in Kale, there's a guy that I think I would say was highly recruited. It came down to BYU in Wisconsin for him. He goes to BYU mid-year, and he was hurt his senior year, an injury he's since recovered from, but really never got his opportunity to gain any traction at BYU. And he's there a semester and looking for a new opportunity. And Coach Firm, Josh Firm, our new running backs coach, was able to get to Vegas and meet with him and his parents and go to his high school and everything. And we really felt good about not only his ability, but then who he was as a young man. And he's hungry and talented and young all at the same time. So we're excited about all that he has in front of him.
And then the last one, an interesting story. George Helms, who actually went to high school up in Big Sky, Montana, but then went to a prep school. I went to IMG Academy and somehow managed to get to Elon, which is the other side of the world in the FCS, and now coming back close to home. So tell us about this kid. I'm sure he probably was on your radar at least a little bit when he was in high school.
Yeah, George played for Lone Peak out in Big Sky. They came to our team camp. George came to our individual camps. So he was definitely on our radar as a junior becoming a senior a few years back. I know he had the intention of already going to IMG at that time, and Not that we lost track of them, but the opportunity just didn't present itself for us at that time. And out of the IMG opportunity, I think he did make the most of that. Going from playing small school ball in Montana to going to that program, which is certainly one of the more notable premier prep school type of opportunities in our country. And then he found his way to Elon, which from Florida isn't all too far, I suppose. So, but then he had a real urge to get back up this way, and it aligned where we had a roster spot at the running back position in particular. I think he's a guy that could contribute on special teams as well. So excited to have some representation from the Big Sky area up here in Bozeman.
Well, now that you have these guys on campus, what's the next sort of cycle look like? What do you hope to get out of these guys during this summer? I know you can have a little bit of contact, not much. So what's sort of the mode of operation between now and the open fall camp?
Well, the rules changed a couple of years back where at a minimum us coaches can work skill development with them. You go back only, I'd say, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. You couldn't have any contact other than seeing them run around and lift weights. So at a minimum, we can be out there and have some skill development. And I think that is particularly important with the likes of Justin Lamson and Chris Long, in particular, just seeing those guys, seeing Justin throw it around and seeing Chris catch it and run routes and everything. So trying to, I guess, accelerate their understanding, especially as older, experienced guys. And I really would throw Bryce Parker, I suppose, in that same realm on the defensive side. So trying to get them caught up as best you can between that skill development and then also just the meeting room. We can allot some time to have position meetings as well. And, I think ideally by the time we get to fall camp at the end of July 31st is that first practice. It's not like they've just stepped onto campus. They'll have 2 months under the belt of learning and us getting a chance to learn, at least physically what we think they can do. And I think the expectation would be for those older players at the very least to be right in the mix at those three positions. It'd be fun to see Kale develop and what that all looks like through the course of the summer. And then, same goes for George. So, the summer, I think there is chance for growth. There is a chance to learn quite a bit, both, for those young men to learn about, learn our scheme and just learn how we do things in general, get with Coach Herron in the weight room. And then also, I think for us as a staff to be able to, better evaluate where they might fit.
For a quarterback like Lamson, can he catch up during the summer months? I mean, that's obviously probably what you hope and expect of him.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I know, and this isn't his first time he's done this. His transfer from Syracuse to Stanford was also a summer transfer. I think for a freshman to come in June, I think it'd be near impossible, let alone when those freshmen come in January. I think it's really hard, but he's physically developed, so it's not a matter of that piece happening. He's been in, a couple different college offenses to this point. He's smart. He's a Stanford grad. That means something. So I think he can definitely get caught up, and he can be right in the mix with Chance Wilson and Patrick Duchesne in particular.
Well, it should be fun to follow. We appreciate you giving us an update here to get June kicked off. Thanks so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Go Cats. Go Cats.
Big Sky Spotlight. Speaking of the Big Sky, how about Big Sky Barbecue Supply? They're giving us a free Blackstone outdoor griddle to give to you as our Father's Day giveaway here on Nuanez Now. What do you got to do? You got to text us. Today's word is just black. 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Today's word is black. Text it. You'll get entered in to win a Blackstone outdoor griddle courtesy of Big Sky Barbecue Supply. We'll make our picks next Friday, so keep those texts coming in. 406-888-1029. We're up against it. We'll take a break, come back, talk some Big Sky Conference basketball. That's next. Keep it right here, 1029 ESPN Radio.
Schwab changed the tire game more than 70 years ago. Today, we still believe you should get more from less. Like more hustle, less hassle. More of the best service around, less of the runaround. Because we include America's best tire warranty in every tire we sell. So you get more unbeatable warranty, less charging you extra. It's why we're more than proud to say you get more from less.
At Shields, we're anglers, endlessly seeking and refining techniques. We're hunters and storytellers, because we've been out there. We're experts that put products and gear to the test, so we can share that knowledge with you. At Shields, we understand your outdoor journey and the path you're on, because we walk it too, every step of the way. Shields, right there with you.
Bring the whole family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino. At the Stone of Accord, we use the freshest ingredients to create our homemade traditional Irish classics, fresh salads, and creative specials. Come enjoy our warm, family-friendly atmosphere. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 1033. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 1033.
Missoula and Western Montana will play host to a slew of state championship contests next academic school year for prep sports. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. Missoula, which simultaneously hosted the Class B and C state track and field meets and the BC state tennis tournament last month, will host 3 spring sports championships in 2026. The state AA B track meet, the state BC tennis tournament, and the Class AA state softball tournament. In addition to those 3 events, which are all scheduled for late May, Western Montana will also host state AA tennis in Kalispell, and the State A softball tournament will take place in Hamilton. State baseball will take place in Butte. Missoula will also play host to the Class C state basketball tournament next March. Class AA hoops will take place in Billings. Class A hoops will take place in Great Falls, and Class B hoops will take place in Bozeman. The MHSA rotates the state basketball tournaments between Billings, Bozeman, Butte, Great Falls, and Missoula. State AC track will be hosted at Laurel, while BC softball will be in Billings, as will Class B golf. Class C golf will be played in Shelby. Class AA golf will be played in October in Butte, and Class A golf will be played the same month in Sydney. The state cross country meet is slated for October 25th in Missoula, and the all-class volleyball tournament will take place in Bozeman in November. The all-class wrestling tournament will stay in Billings in mid-February, and the state swim meet will also return to Great Falls that same month.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is presented by Canyon River Golf Club. It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
Well, I'm looking for a lover who will come on in and cover me. Now, promise me, baby, you won't let them find us. Hold me in your arms, let's let out the blindness cover me. Shut the door and cover me.
Well, I totally screwed this up because I want the Stanley Cup experts to be in here talking about last night's epic Game 1 and just give you a revival of the two guys that know this stuff best. I've been doing some Stanley Cup playoff stuff here the last couple shows, but Jeff Safford back in studio, Hayden Smith back in studio. Jeff has been on the road with the Paddleheads, or at least he was last week. Busy with the Paddleheads because they were in town. I'm still getting this schedule all lined up. Here's the way it's working with the Paddleheads right now. When the Paddleheads are home, we got them on the radio. When they are not at home, we do not. I know it's confusing, but we still have at least half the Paddleheads games on the radio, so Jeff will be on the call. Anyways, he's back. Hayden's back from vacation. So quickly, I'll give you my 2 cents on the NBA Finals. We'll bump some of our Big Sky Conference basketball stuff to tomorrow. The Summit League Challenge was announced, and so we got matchups for all the men's and women's basketball teams. We'll hash some of those matchups out with Rajim Seabrook, but we're going to get out here quick so these guys can have some room to breathe on both Stanley Cup, and then also Andrew and Jeff will talk some Paddleheads and some Major League Baseball before we hear from Carol and the Chicken Doesn't Know Sports. So we're adjusting on the fly as it goes here. Andrew and I have done a bunch on the NBA Finals already. I think it's pretty well defined that the Thunder are overwhelming favorites here. But I think that the Pacers have a chance. I think the Pacers have a chance to at least make this a competitive series. I do not think that's going to happen tonight in Game 1. I do expect the Thunder to roll. They're 9.5-point favorites, but I still think I'm taking the Thunder and the points. In terms of the over-under, it's really hard to take the unders in games that involve the Pacers because even if they do get run over, they always score in the 115s to 120s. They're the best offense in basketball. I do think the Thunder's defense is also the best defense, so it is strength versus strength, but I'd probably be hesitant on the over-under, but I do really like the Thunder and the points. I think Oklahoma City rolls tonight. If this series is going to be competitive, I think obviously the Pacers have to win Game 3, but if they can figure out a way to be super competitive or even steal Game 2, oh boy, now all of a sudden we have a series, but I do think the Thunder roll tonight. All of our NBA conversations probably presented by Sportsbet Montana, as well as our Stanley Cup conversations, which we'll talk about an epic Game 1 and how we see the rest of the finals. Jeff Safford, Hayden Smith in studio. That's next. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Les Schwab changed the tire game more than 70 years ago. Today, we still believe you should get more from less. Like more hustle, less hassle. More of the best service around, less of the runaround. Because we include America's best tire warranty in every tire we sell. So you get more unbeatable warranty, less charging you extra. It's why we're more than proud to say, you get more from less.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 1033. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 1033.
Life Montana and this station.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Well, I got a confession to make. As an NBA guy, I was looking forward to tonight's Game 1, Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder, and the rest of that series much, much more than I was looking forward to the Stanley Cup Finals. But after last night's overtime Game 1, I'm no longer sure that's the case. I think I might be more excited for the rest of this hockey series than I am for the NBA Finals. What's up, everybody? Welcome back, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. I'm Andrew Houghton. I'll be riding with you for the rest of the show here today, although we'll hear Colter Nuanez plenty in the second hour with Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports. But right now, we are going to talk a little stick and puck. We've got our hockey experts in the studio, Jeff Safford, Hayden Smith, in the studio to break down that crazy Game 1 from last night and what we expect from the rest of the Stanley Cup Finals. Guys, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun always to come into the studio, and man, what a Game 1. What a way to get that Stanley Cup started. Seemingly a great atmosphere and just a great hockey game in general, man.
Yeah, I mean, Rogers Arena was electric, and then outside of the stadium, it looked like he was even crazier. I mean, every single goal that gets scored, beers were getting hucked. And did you see the lady dressed up like the Stanley Cup?
I did, with the Believe sign, and yeah, that was
awesome. It's hard to not root for Edmonton right now. It looks like a pretty fun vibe over there, and obviously a lot of history for sure. So
another cool video I saw on social media also was filmed from outside of the rink. Looked like from an apartment complex kind of across the street from the arena, from the rink, and it was crazy how loud it was hearing "O Canada." You could clearly hear the fans from like blocks away, and there was like a flyby with these jets that went by the rink, as even because I mean that's of course that's what you're going to get for an indoor event, but just seeing that just be a thing, and then the awesome game itself, what a sweet night.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers pay off the fan support in Game 1. They're, of course, the hosts. Home ice advantage in this rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals from last year. They did not have home ice last year, but 4-3 win in overtime in Game 1. They were down at multiple points in this game. They came back and tied it 3-3, and then overtime almost goes all the way through, and in the final minute of the first overtime, Leon Draisaitl, off a pass from Connor McDavid, fires the Oilers to a Game 1 win. Guys, just open mic here, free hit. What was your biggest takeaway from Game 1, or not even your biggest takeaway, but what stuck out to you most about the action on the ice? Just anything you want to talk about from that crazy game. Jeff, we'll start with you.
Well, the thing that really stood out for me was how Edmonton responded after they fell behind 3-1 in the midst of the second period. You're sitting there after the first, Florida leading 2-1. They seemingly had some momentum. Then they pretty early on in that second period, they take a 3-1 lead, and really it was Sam Bennett going top shelf, a nice goal, but really it was, in my opinion, too easy. If you're Edmonton's defense, you just can't let them glide on through the neutral zone and attack like that. That's too easy for a team like Florida. So you're sitting there down 3-1, and you're thinking, man, if Florida comes in here in Game 1 in this electric atmosphere and they get a win, man, that's a way for them to put a stamp on this series immediately. But within 90 seconds, they got an answer. The Oilers cutting it back to 3-2. And really, I felt they had the distinct advantage in the third period. Things were more even, I felt, in the overtime, but just Edmonton's ability to punch back after they were down by 2, I think that was massive for the Oilers. Now, things are surely not in a place where they're hitting the panic button if you're throwing rats on the ice from the Panthers' perspective, but Game 2 surely feels like, I don't know if it's a must-win, but it definitely, if they go down 2-0, that's going to be a mountain to climb for the defending champs.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see the stat, but I think that the Panthers were, when they had the lead at any point in the game, not just the third period, they were 30-0, and that's not a 1-goal lead, a 2-goal lead, that's just in general. So to see them kind of collapse in that third period is just something that I don't think you've necessarily seen the last couple years out of the Panthers. So as an Edmonton fan, that's a good sight to see. Also, is Connor McDavid not just simply the best player on the earth right now? Just watching him skate around the ice, it's just so clear not only how good he is, but just how much he wants it. And it's scary for Florida. I mean, they have a great team, probably more depth, even though I'd say the Edmonton depth has really been stepping up. Guys like Corey Perry and Arvidsson had that huge goal to make it 2-3 before they tied it up later. But yeah, I mean, Edmonton just looks so hungry right now, and I just don't know if Florida was necessarily ready for that game one, especially after they were winning 3-0 in that series last year before Edmonton started to finally figure out how to beat this team. But they're not making those same mistakes this season, and Florida is not going to be in for as easy as a series as it was last year for sure. Even if it went to 7, it felt like a very dominant Florida lead the entire time last year. So,
well, that was my biggest takeaway just from watching the end of that game after nearly 80 minutes on the ice, that Edmonton Stars were able to create just this beautiful play is what it was for that winning goal, with McDavid sort of circling down low by the net and dropping it off to Draisaitl, and it's like, well, that's why those guys are what they are, and that's why Edmonton's here for the second year in a row. I wanted to get your thoughts on this because coming into the series, we thought it was going to be the clash of styles, right? I mean, we thought that Florida was going to grind it out and keep Edmonton on the back foot, but that Edmonton had the Stars and was maybe going to get more goals with fewer chances, but that wasn't the case, right? I mean, Edmonton outshot Florida pretty handily in this game, and there were times when Florida was heavy on the forecheck, but they weren't pinning Edmonton in their zone for long periods of time at all. Jeff, is that a bad sign even more than the loss for Florida in Game 1?
I mean, that's definitely I would say the recipe for Edmonton to try to get themselves some wins. And the big thing I liked from the Oilers last night as well is there were numerous instances. I mean, we've talked about it at length about this Florida team, how they are a physical bunch, and at times they've had some questionable hits throughout this postseason. But there were numerous spots where it was the Oilers being the aggressors, where they were in the open ice, laying big hits, kind of taking the fight to the Florida Panthers. So I think Hayden really put it well in saying, I liked his point when he said that it didn't seem like Florida was necessarily ready for this. And this is not a time for them to hit the panic button. This is a veteran group. They did a lot of things right in Game 1, and they were on the wrong side of it. And I definitely expect this team that's now been in 3 straight Stanley Cups to have a bounce-back performance in Game 2. Will that mean a victory? We'll see. But I expect a different Florida team to be out there in Game 2. One thing that surely looked good despite the loss, in my opinion, was the play of Brovsky in net. I thought he was fantastic with the advantage with the Oilers getting chances time after time up till the tail end. Brovsky really held tall and kept Florida in that game.
Especially that third period. I mean, he was all over the third period. I mean, I don't know what the exact shots were, but I think it was 21-5 or something like that at Edmonton, so they definitely dominated that pace of play. Another point, too, on Connor McDavid is, I mean, we're seeing him throw those, beautiful little sauce passes through the middle of the ice to Draisaitl to end that game there, but I mean, that back check on Sam Bennett, I think in the first period where he stopped that breakaway, I mean, that's a huge play for a guy that, maybe you don't want McDavid on the PK, but you're seeing a lot of other teams like Toronto where they got Matthews and Marner. Like, I like seeing those stars on the PK just kind of breaking stuff up and being disruptions. And, 4-on-5 with McDavid and open ice, you're just giving him more space to make a move, and I think that's a good place for them to put him.
Well, we will resume this series tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, puck drop, Game 2 in Edmonton for the Stanley Cup Finals. Guys, we're almost out of time here, but just anything else that stuck out to you from Game 1, or anything else that that Florida needs to do going forward here to sort of turn things around?
Well, I would say that the biggest thing for Florida is their star player needs to get going. I mean, the biggest name that we haven't brought up in this conversation, haven't said it, is Matthew Tkachuk. He was not a huge part of the game yesterday, and for me, he needs to find that grit, that Tkachuk, I don't know what you call it. He's just a guy that can grind, and it seemingly is such a more dangerous team. When he's out there chirping on the ice, he's making things happen, whether he's putting pucks in the back of the net or facilitating for his offense. As the Panthers go, so does Matthew Tkachuk. So and talk about playing a villain/heel, an American hockey player going in to ruin the dreams of Canada, man, that would be something.
Yeah, a little Four Nations rematch between McDavid and Tkachuk. And I think they have more history in the past. I'd have to do a little more research there. But, I mean, these are two guys that have been playing each other for essentially their entire lives. So, obviously, there's going to be some history there. Probably both good and bad. No, I mean, I think the Panthers are fine. I thought some of the bounces off the boards were a little bit funky yesterday. I think the announcers actually mentioned that too. And you know what? When Stuart Skinner finally gets beat, and who knows if it'll happen, but, you know, that can fall apart pretty quick here. So I'd be a little bit cautious if I was Edmonton, maybe to not push too many things here unless McDavid and Draisaitl are on the ice. Because once that goalie breaks, I mean, it kind of falls apart quickly, and I just don't see of the two goalies we have out there, Bobrovsky being the one that really crumples in the end here. So when that pressure's really on.
Yeah, I would think that Bobrovsky, I mean, there's nothing that dude hasn't seen. I mean,
and he won last year. I mean, he
right.
he has the confidence. He has great defensemen in front of him. He knows his guys are going to battle for him. It's I really, really hope, and I'm rooting for Edmonton hard here in this series, that Skinner can keep up this performance, because as of right now, it's been nothing short of spectacular.
Good reminder here from a listener. It is the Stanley Cup Final, not finals. So I will work on that as we go forward here. Stanley Cup Final coverage continuing next week with our guys here in studio, Jeff Safford, as well as Hayden Smith. Big shout out to both of those guys joining us all spring and now early summer long, talking hockey here on 102.9 ESPN Radio. Guys, appreciate it again. Thanks for being here.
Sure thing, and surely should be a fun rest of the Stanley Cup Final to follow. If I would still, despite the win for Edmonton in Game 1, I surely think this will be a series that goes deep 6 or 7 games.
Without question. There's no way that Florida's just going to fold here. Obviously, that what I just said, that 30-1 now record of games that they've been in the lead for and now lost, that record to me just shows how often they're in the lead, and we're going to see them in that position again, and it'll be interesting to see if they can rebound from that little hiccup they had last game.
Well, we'll keep Jeff Safford in the studio. We'll let Hayden go on home, and we'll switch our focus from the ice to the diamond. A little baseball talk coming up in hour number 2 with myself and Jeff Safford. Missoula Paddleheads update and maybe some MLB talk as well. Hour number 1 in the books, hour 2 coming at you. You're listening to 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Booking a tea time.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 1033. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 1033.
Les Schwab changed the tire game more than 70 years ago. Today, we still believe you should get more from less. Like more hustle, less hassle. More of the best service around, less of the runaround. Because we include America's best tire warranty in every tire we sell. So you get more unbeatable warranty, less charging you extra. It's why we're more than proud to say, you get more from less.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Missoula and Western Montana will play host to a slew of state championship contests next academic school year for prep sports. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. Missoula, which simultaneously hosted the Class B and C state track and field meets and the BC state tennis tournament last month, will host 3 spring sports championships in 2026. The state AA B track meet, the state BC tennis tournament, and the Class AA state softball tournament. In addition to those 3 events, which are all scheduled for late May, Western Montana will also host state AA tennis in Kalispell, and the State A softball tournament will take place in Hamilton. State baseball will take place in Butte. Missoula will also play host to the Class C state basketball tournament next March. Class AA hoops will take place in Billings. Class A hoops will take place in Great Falls, and Class B hoops will take place in Bozeman. The MHSA rotates the state basketball tournaments between Billings, Bozeman, Butte, Great Falls, and Missoula. State AC track will be hosted at Laurel, while BC softball will be in Billings, as will Class B golf. Class C golf will be played in Shelby. Class AA golf will be played in October in Butte, and Class A golf will be played the same month in Sydney. The state cross country meet is slated for October 25th in Missoula, and the all-class volleyball tournament will take place in Bozeman in November. The all-class wrestling tournament will stay in Billings in mid-February, and the state swim meet will also return to Great Falls that same month.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is presented by Canyon River Golf Club. Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Sweet surrender on the cute side.
Dire Straits bringing you into hour number 2 here on 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. What's up, Montana? I'm Andrew Houghton, taking you home here on a Thursday. We'll still hear from Colter Nuanez here in hour number 2. He caught up with Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports, earlier today, so you're going to want to stick around for that. We're about to talk baseball here with Jeff Safford, but before we do that, if you missed anything in the first hour, you can always find it on the Nuanez Now podcast. It's brought to you by Elevated Tax and Accounting. Elevate you or your small business with Elevated Tax and Accounting. One more thing before we get to the baseball here. We still do have one pair of tickets to Wildfire FC's debut Saturday evening down there at Fort Missoula, the newest team franchise in Missoula. They're a pre-professional soccer team. They're kicking off their existence with a friendly against Spokane Shadow FC. We got a pair of tickets to that game, 7 p.m. Saturday. Not quite part of, but interacting with the Intermountain Champions Cup that's taking place down there at the fort all weekend. If you want a pair of tickets to that Wildfire FC game, text me right now, 406-888-1029. Again, 406-888-1029 if you want a pair of tickets to Wildfire FC's inaugural game. Jeff, man, how have you been doing without being on the road? What's this week been like for you, not following the paddleheads all around the Pacific Northwest?
Well, it definitely has been a big adjustment. It's definitely a fun thing to do, to be on the road with the guys, so to speak. Get to know the players on and off the field. Not that you don't get to calling the home games, but it also has been nice to be able to enjoy a little bit more of Missoula in the summertime and still get to cover the paddleheads at length. It was fun seeing the team in action last week against the Glacier Range Riders, and after this series, team in Great Falls this week, they will be at home for a long chunk of time. A season-long 12-game homestand is coming up next week, and really the way to get it started will be a lot of fun. Team from the Bay Area is coming out, the Oakland Ballers. For folks tuned in the Flathead Valley, can check out the Ballers this week against the Glacier Range Riders. They've been able to win the first 2 games of that series over there at Glacier Bank Park.
Well, looking forward to that. We'll have Paddleheads tickets for you all next week for you to go check out great events like Wolf Wednesday, as well as kids get in free on Sunday. Paddleheads have great promotions going all summer long. Jeff, let's talk a little bit about the play on the field. Paddleheads started a touch slowly for what we've been accustomed to from this team, but seems like they're putting it together. They've won 3 in a row. That included a 25-3 demolition of Great Falls on Tuesday. They came back and beat Great Falls again in the second game of that series yesterday, 7-5, so not quite the fireworks from the series opener. But it seems like the Paddleheads starting to put it together here now. 3-game win streak takes them to 9-5.
Yeah, I would really say in their last 6 games or so, they've really started to, I think, find the formula for what they want to be in this season, having won 5 of 6. And really it all just started with one big rally that the Paddleheads had last week in the series against Glacier. They lost the first 2 games of that series last week at home against the Range Riders, the second game being a knockout round loss, but they're trailing in that game early in Game 3. Things aren't going their way, and you're wondering, man, when are things going to turn around for this roster that's got so much talent? And they were able to put together a 5-run rally, and I believe it was the 4th inning of Game 3. And from that point on, it just seems like this team has been launching itself forward. We've seen some solid starting pitching the last 2 nights, specifically seeing Dawson Day have 9 Ks last night. Also good to see the league pitcher of the year from last season, Mike Peterson, get going after 2 subpar starts in Game 1 of the Great Falls series on Tuesday night. He had, by a mile, his best outing. 6 innings, just a couple of runs, 8 strikeouts. So things turning around in that regard, and the offensive numbers still have been what you've seen in years past with the big run totals, but it's nice to see Missoula win games like last night as well, where it's not just all the home runs and big swings getting you wins. We've seen the Paddleheads have success in a lot of high-leverage, close-game type scenarios with pitchers in their bullpen really throwing well, whether it be rookies like Zach Lampton, who went into last night's game with an ERA under 2, or veterans like Armand Sabori, who in 7 outings has allowed just 1 run, and he's in his new role this season as the closer. He's 3 for 3, getting the save last night, allowing just 1 base runner.
Jeff Safford, he's the voice of the Missoula Paddleheads. He'll be on our airwaves all summer long, calling every single Paddleheads home game right here on 102.9 ESPN Radio. Jeff, real quick, I looking at the roster and sort of the summaries of these games, I'm seeing a lot of familiar names. Cameron Willman and Adam Fogel and Alex Sanchez and Mike Rosario, but who are some of the other names that have sort of taken the league by storm here or jumped out at you watching these games in the first couple weeks?
Well, I mentioned Zach Lampton out of the Paddleheads bullpen. He has been a nice new addition to the team. Another player, another rookie that really has been able to get off to a pretty good start in his first pro season has been the Paddleheads' new shortstop in Colby Wilkerson. He has started every single game at position 6 so far for Missoula this season. And just thinking about Cam Willman being the franchise player and seemingly almost always playing at shortstop himself, a guy that really is a strong defensive player in that regard, that to me is a big statement to make, to have the rookie then fill in at shortstop instead of Cam Willman. It's not something where you look at it as Willman is a slouch in that regard. No, we saw Willman make numerous fabulous plays defensively at second base, including one diving stop in Game 5 in the series last week against the Range Riders. So Wilkerson, cool to see him get his pro career started. He's a versatile bat in the lineup as well, a guy that's hit at the top and bottom of the order as a switch hitter, and really has been off to a pretty good start. And if you like flash, Wilkerson's got plenty of that also with the bleach blonde hair, and for day games, he's got these crazy-looking shades. So for kids-free Sundays, be sure to look out for the shades of the former Tar Heel, Wilkerson.
Oh, one more name to mention that I don't think I did either, but Roberto Pena off to a scorching start this season. These are peak Pioneer League goofy numbers, but just listen to this. This guy's hitting .361 in 14 games. He's got 11 homers, and he's driven in 24 runs in 14 games. So get out to the ballpark. You'll probably see some offense from the Missoula Paddleheads. Jeff, I've been meaning to ask you this. For these games on the road where we don't have you on the airwaves, is there a way that, the diehard fans, or just if you're interested in watching some Pioneer League baseball, where they can watch the Paddleheads or listen to the Paddleheads when they're on the road this year?
Yes. I'm sure folks that are fans of the Paddleheads may know this already too, but Flow Sports is a league-wide, if you go to flowbaseball.com, it's a league-wide online streaming service where you pay a one-time subscription, and that will give you access to all the Pioneer League games throughout the course of the season. You can find the Flow broadcasts when the team are at home as well, but when the Paddleheads are on the road, you'll be listening with Max Abel, the new play-by-play man for the Voyagers up there in the Electric City. I've been watching and listening to him. Young guy out of the Midwest has been doing a nice job there for Great Falls this season, so you'll be able to watch and listen to him, or the veteran Scott Gladstone over in the Flathead Valley. He's called over 250 Glacier Range Rider games, a lot of great media presences around the league. So Flow Baseball is where to go to watch the Paddleheads when the team is on the road. And as you mentioned, when they're at home, you can tune in on Flow and hear me, or listen to the action right here on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
There you go, Jeff Safford pulling double duty for us today with the hockey and the baseball analysis, but of course that's what we expect from Jeff Safford. He's the voice of Grizz hockey, and he's the voice of Missoula Paddleheads baseball this summer. Again, every Paddleheads home game with Jeff on the mic is going to be brought to you right here at 102.9 ESPN Radio. Jeff, we'll get you out of here, but thanks for stopping by, man. Excited to hear you back on the airwaves next week as the Paddleheads open up that 12-game homestand.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun next week. As I mentioned, a 3-game series. The Oakland Ballers coming out from the Bay Area, a team that really has been off to a good start as well. 9-5 record, just like Missoula. Team ERA, also, I know we've been talking a lot about offense, but Oakland's team ERA, awesome so far at 3.71. So maybe some good pitching matchups next week. And then hosting the Voyagers for 3 games over the weekend. And then, to wrap up the homestands, it will be the folks from the Magic City coming out for a 6-game series in the Billings Mustangs.
We'll be back right after this. Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports, here to have some laughs. Keep it tuned. You're listening to 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Do you want to
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 1033. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 1033.
What the?
What are you drinking?
I think I'll have a 56.
56 Counties American Light Lager. A beer for Montanans and friends of Montanans.
In the Treasure State, University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Grizz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the Big Sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez Now on 1029 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Grizz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
Access to Montana's great backyard is the best part of being a Grizzly. At the University of Montana, our classrooms are the mountain peaks, river valleys, and never-ending plains of the Big Sky country. We provide students with the hands-on training to protect and enjoy hunting, conservation, and stewardship. UM launches the careers of outdoor leaders so that they can protect our traditions and ensure they are passed down for future generations. Because what's made in Montana is remaking the world.
At the Stone of Accord, our liquor store has an extensive selection of Irish whiskeys, wine, and local spirits. We also have exciting events daily, and our complimentary beverages are always served with a smile. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and casino. Bring the whole family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Missoula and Western Montana will play host to a slew of state championship contests next academic school year for prep sports. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. Missoula, which simultaneously hosted the Class B and C state track and field meets and the BC State Tennis Tournament last month, will host 3 spring sports championships in 2026. The State AA B track meet, the State BC Tennis Tournament, and the Class AA State Softball Tournament. In addition to those 3 events, which are all scheduled for late May, Western Montana will also host State AA Tennis in Kalispell, and the State A Softball Tournament will take place in Hamilton. State Baseball will take place in Butte. Missoula will also play host to the Class C State Basketball Tournament next March. Class AA Hoops will take place in Billings. Class A Hoops will take place in Great Falls, and Class B Hoops will take place in Bozeman. The MHSA rotates the state basketball tournaments between Billings, Bozeman, Butte, Great Falls, and Missoula. State AC Track will be hosted at Laurel, while BC Softball will be in Billings, as will Class B Golf. Class C Golf will be played in Shelby. Class AA Golf will be played in October in Butte, and Class A Golf will be played the same month in Sydney. The State Cross Country Meet is slated for October 25th in Missoula, and the All-Class Volleyball Tournament will take place in Bozeman in November. The All-Class Wrestling Tournament will stay in Billings in mid-February, and the State Swim Meet will also return to Great Falls that same month.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is presented by Canyon River Golf Club. It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I have been well, I shouldn't say letting. It's a cumulative group effort here, but we have talked a pretty fair amount about Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. Carol and Chick is no sports here. First of all, it's hilarious that probably the two biggest subjects of this show's history are Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Like, maybe we should get over our Patriots envy. But
I wouldn't call it envy.
Right. You have been centered upon this because you think it's so bizarre that a 70-something is dating a 20-something, and that's totally fine. I think in our modern society, we are like hammered to accept everything, and you can do whatever you want in the world. I don't care. I don't care what anybody does. Be yourself, live your life, be happy, whatever. It is objectively weird, though, to date somebody 50 years younger than you. It's objectively weird. So I'll make that statement first. But do you know who Pablo Torre is?
No.
He's a pretty famous, I shouldn't say famous, he's a very prominent and award-winning sports writer. His specialty is investigative journalism. He did a deep dive investigative journalism podcast all about this. Well, then Bill Simmons, who's like the king of entertainment media, who's a guy I idolize quite a bit, he didn't like it. He was like, this is ridiculous. This is salacious. Pablo Torre's better than this. He's supposed to be reporting on like real deep issues, not
Bill Belichick's love life.
Like gossip column stuff. So these guys kind of beefed. They were both talking smack about each other on their respective podcasts. So Bill Simmons, being a real adult, said, "Pablo, come on my podcast instead of like let's
beef in person.
Let's talk about it together."
Yeah.
So they did like an hour-long podcast. I can't believe how good it was, and I have come around on this not to say that I want to be someone who purports gossip and has a radio segment about gossip, although this one is largely about gossip, and it's very funny.
What are we doing here?
But Pablo Torre, I thought, articulated it better than anybody I've heard before. He said that this isn't because Bill Belichick is a 74-year-old man. This is because Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick, who also happens to be a 74-year-old man. You probably couldn't name another coach in the history of the NFL. I mean, maybe Mike Ditka, right? Like maybe Vince Lombardi. Other than that, like Bill Belichick is beyond just football. Or you can say even guys have won the Super Bowl. There's only a few coaches that have transcended to the point where most people know who he is and they know his sweatshirt and his funny quirks. But as Pablo Torre said, the reason this is so fascinating is that Bill Belichick is literally the archetype that we have used in modern society for how to handle the spotlight in a certain way, the way he did it. Mm-hmm. Handle the spotlight, handle exposure, PR. Belichick was the master of saying nothing all the time and avoiding controversy, and he did it for like 25 years. So how are we to the point now where he's this older, elderly man, and it's the opposite of that? And then Pablo Torre is like, I wanted to pace through all of the decisions that he's made in his life and all the fallout from those. And basically his thesis is that Bill Belichick is this football genius who's also just a complete fool in every other element of his life. And once he was released from the NFL model, he's just swimming and floundering and he doesn't know what to do. And this woman is just completely taking advantage of him. And I thought it was like such a great deep dive into the psychology of this whole thing.
I agree with this, except if you were dating an age-appropriate woman.
Sure, right.
She wouldn't be making TikToks about her old man boyfriend, very wealthy boyfriend. So she's putting it out there. She's the media. She's the one who wants the attention.
That's the point that's so crazy, though, is this guy didn't want any media attention ever, and he was the master of this. Right. The master of this.
Well, he
kept Rob Gronkowski out of trouble for like 10 years.
He's hypnotized by her. You know what?
Like Aaron Hernandez killed people and still played for the Patriots, and the Patriots got away with that scot-free.
Yeah.
Because of how Belichick handles this. And then now he has this woman who is running his PR. It's just crazy.
He might be having some cognitive decline.
That's what Pablo Torre said. He said, I actually wanted to do this because he told Bill Simmons, he's like, this guy is a prominent enough figure who's also now, because he's in college football, a public employee. He's getting paid taxpayer money to be the head coach of North Carolina. $10 million worth of taxpayer money, mind you.
I'm sorry, did you say billion?
$10 million. $10
million to be a college coach.
To be a college coach with taxpayer money. So that is the public's right to know if this guy is in steep cognitive decline and or he's making worrisome decisions about his life.
I mean, some would say that about our president too. Like we should know these pieces of information.
No question. So it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to think about like the Belichick tree and stuff like that too. I mean, Tom Brady moved on. They got divorced, and Tom Brady moved on and won a Super Bowl. Other than that, basically every other person that was involved in like the Belichick umbrella did nothing. Like he had all these coaches that got jobs because they were Bill Belichick's offensive coordinator or whatever. Those guys all fell flat on their face.
Really?
It's like, what does that say? It says so much about Belichick and his football genius, but also that he was never surrounding himself with good people in the first place.
Yeah.
He just had this job where he was the king of the universe because he got to be the general manager and the coach. So he picked the whole team and like ran the whole thing. It's just very clear now that moment in time is over, that maybe he can't do it. like maybe he can't do any of this anymore. And he only could do it there at that time. And it's just like so many things. This is what my mom always tells me. So much of life is just time and place.
Exactly.
Right?
And having the right people at the right time. And, he built this team with Tom Brady and Gronk, and he had the right players, the right coaches for those people, and it all worked.
Right.
But I think, as I keep saying, is there's no reason for him to be working anymore.
Totally.
Especially making $10 million of taxpayer money.
Right.
That makes me so angry.
It's. I guess the thing I'll leave this on is that he literally wrote the playbook for how to handle PR in the modern age. And now...
Well, no, not necessarily, because 15, 20 years ago is very different than now.
That's true. That is an absolutely great point. It's an absolutely great point.
There's literally no privacy anymore.
That's a great point. It's just crazy that it would be the complete opposite. Like, how did he go from what he was...
to what he is now.
To what he is now.
Yeah. Well, we know why.
And we have pretty... It's not as big of a sample size, but we have pretty good evidence now that Jordan Hudson is just like a wrecking ball.
Yes.
Every single one of these things that are coming out is like the people. Pablo Torre also did some very good investigative report, and that's where he was standing his ground. He was like, Simmons, I'm investigating this not because of the salacious nature of their relationship, but because of how it's going to affect college football in the state of North Carolina. And again, it goes back to the taxpayer money. So he has a whole bunch of sources that say, like, there is massive worry at the University of North Carolina about this situation.
Yeah.
They're like, who do we hire? What's going on? What's going to happen? Is this a terrible look?
This isn't the Bill Belichick from 5 years ago.
Exactly.
This is, yes. And then this girl is coming in and doing her thing.
And then it all wraps around to the other part of the story, which is that how does the greatest coach in the history of the NFL get forced out of the NFL and then can't get back in? Everybody in the NFL
Why is that?
It's because everybody knows the secrets. They know he is losing it.
Yeah.
Like, Patriots were the kings of the world until all of a sudden they wouldn't.
Yeah.
They weren't. And then they've been the worst team in the NFL.
Right.
It's not just because he left. It's because he drafted this awful team and then left. But, I mean, the last couple of years were wild. Like, the Matt Patricia thing was crazy. I mean, he hired a high school coach to call his offense, a high school defensive coach to call his offense.
Yeah.
How does that even happen? Who does that?
Okay, so he gets fired from the Patriots. He cannot get rehired.
Right.
You think it's because they know things about him. Then why wouldn't that trickle down to the college level, and why is he hireable as a college coach? Was he hired for his name more than his skill?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think the vetting process just isn't as... Yeah, I think there's only 32 NFL teams. There's 130 college... The NFL owners can talk to each other pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And... There's only going to be 8 openings in a given year.
Is North Carolina a good team? Like, are they normally a good football team?
They're widely known for all the rest of their sports, but particularly men's basketball. Yeah.
Okay.
But they've been okay. They have a ton of money.
Clearly.
I mean, obviously. Yeah, they've been okay. They should be better based on their talent than what they have been in the modern era. But they could be very good, and that's why they're investing in Belichick.
I wonder if I'll see Belichick and Jordan this summer when I'm in North Carolina.
Wow, yeah, that'd be cool.
Maybe they'll be doing weird stuff on the beach again. Playing airplane or whatever.
For those that haven't seen the picture, it's like a yoga pose. It's not as weird as she made it
It's not a yoga pose. It's like when you have a baby and you put it on your legs and you're like, wee, and you play airplane. That's why I used to do that with my kids all the time. And he's doing that with his
Granddaughter, or I mean girlfriend.
girlfriend/granddaughter.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Carol, the chicken doesn't know sports. All right, you got your list. What do you got?
Well, I do have Bill Belichick on the list because he's still complaining about that CBS interview. So that's the other thing with him. Stop talking about it. We'll forget about it, but you keep bringing it up. So now he's going on and saying that his book publicist promised the interview would be only about the book, but the CBS people wouldn't let him see the interview questions before the interview. So he's blaming his publicist and he's blaming CBS this morning. At the end of the day, I mean, they asked a question. She ruined it. If he had just said we met on a plane, that would have been that. It's
just another great. Also, Pablo Torre had some in-depth reporting that he actually saw her in the stands at a game like 5 years ago.
Yeah, see, she's.
So this has been a thing.
Well, and then he was caught on a ring cam in the Jersey Shore or something, leaving her house, or I don't remember exactly, before they kind of went public. So there's been some stuff going on.
Well, and again, the CBS thing is crazy. Like Bill Belichick used to do like 8 press conferences a week. Do you think the NFL reporters are like handing him questions beforehand? They're like asking him hard questions the whole time. How can he not handle this? He's got 30 years experience.
Okay, so I don't know if I brought this up before, but they claim they met on an airplane.
Right.
The rumor is that she was an escort.
Oh, boy.
Now, this is a rumor. I am not saying this is alleged, that they met.
So it's like Pretty Woman 2025?
Yes, but not like, I don't think he was driving down Hollywood Boulevard type escort. I think she was like a classier escort than that. That is the rumor.
All right. Any other Belichick news?
That's all I got today.
All right. He's all right. I still think this is going to blow up.
It's 100% going to blow up.
I'm going to say 60-40 that he coaches 1 year or less at North Carolina.
I'm just really hoping she did not sign an NDA, so when they do break up, we get like a great book.
Yes.
Because I want to know the juice.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
So, Saquon Barkley.
You got it.
He is the new cover man of Madden, the NFL game. The
Indeed.
NFL video game.
Yep.
Now, do you know about the Madden curse?
I actually wrote a comprehensive thesis paper about the Madden curse in college.
Okay. So
I should actually find that.
You should. The Madden curse is
my professor loved it. Thought it was so good.
I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
So the Madden curse, so in case people don't know, is people that have been on the cover of this video game have gotten injured the same year, or stopped playing well, or whatever.
Or had like Peyton Hillis was on the cover one year, and then he almost drowned.
Oh,
it was like the weirdest thing. So there's some examples of not getting hurt, but there's a lot of examples of getting hurt.
Garrison Hurst broke an ankle. Michael Vick fractured his fibula.
Yep.
Donovan McNabb, he had several injuries and played really poorly the year he was on the cover. Ray Lewis broke his wrist. He only missed 1 game though. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Now, back in my day when I was getting married, I used to get a bunch of wedding magazines.
Okay.
And there was the InStyle weddings curse that every person on the cover of InStyle weddings got divorced.
Whoa.
So, just saying. I don't know. I hope little Saquon does okay and doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, some of this is it's not direct correlation, right? Because Saquon Barkley has a high chance of getting hurt no matter if he's on the Madden cover or not. He's just been very injury prone. That's the position that he plays. He's a very aggressive player. So, but I hope he doesn't get hurt because he had a phenomenal year last year and, led the Eagles to the Super Bowl and got paid because of it, and he deserved every single second of it.
Yeah, well, I hope he doesn't get. I don't want anyone to get hurt, frankly.
Chicken Doesn't Know Sports here on ESPN Radio, probably presented by Hot House Yoga. Did you go to the Hot House this week?
I did. I went this morning.
Nice, very
5:40,
good.
5:45.
5:45.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, good. Hot House, great place to unwind. The hot yoga is relaxing, but also just great fitness. So go check them out downtown Missoula. All right, what else you got?
So Livy Dunn, gymnast and LSU student.
I can't wait for this one.
No, this one's actually messed up. So she.
No, I know this is messed up. I can't wait to dunk on these guys.
Okay, so she posted on Instagram or whatever, basically crying, saying, "I was just at the airport. I was surrounded at baggage claim by these middle-aged men who were demanding autographs, and then when I don't give them autographs, they yell at me, they scream at me, they say horrible things." She's a teeny tiny little thing. This happens to her when she's walking into the airport. She'll be getting a connecting flight. These people are in the airport past security stalking her. And she has no idea how they get her someone from her team is obviously giving them information.
Yep.
Well, then Gabby Thomas, who is an Olympian, came forward.
The sprinter. Yep.
And then Simone Biles also came forward and said, this is happening to so many female athletes. It is so scary. I feel so bad for these women, these loser guys trying to get autographs. I'm sure they sell them and make money off of them.
No idea.
I don't get it. But what is this world coming to?
So I was under the impression that when I heard this news report that these people were actually like full on stalking. They're just getting to the airport to get autographs, or they?
Yes,
like,
but they're chasing her. Like they're coming up to her, no space, and then when she says no, they yell at her, and they,
See, I thought that they were like stalking her under under romantic premise.
No, I mean they probably are too because she's gorgeous.
Sure, she's also gonna marry like one of the most famous baseball players in the world, and she's. Yeah, I thought these guys were like stalking her at the airport, like, be my forever lover. I love you. They just, autograph.
They're basically just.
It's still messed up.
In her face.
But I was going to dunk on these guys and say, like, what is your tactic here? Do you think she's just going to be like, sure, yeah, I'm just going to be with you. Like,
right.
We're going to be in love. I'm going to break up
I'm so glad you pointed it out to me. Yes, we are meant to be.
I'm going to break up with my boyfriend.
Who's her boyfriend?
6'6" and makes $50 million a year. What's his name? He's a pitcher for the Pirates. Give me one sec. He is very handsome, as you'd expect.
Well, yeah, I would hope so.
Paul Skeens. He was a top draft pick. She's from LSU. I think he went to LSU. They've been together since college.
Cute. Well, I hope.
Either way, this is so weird.
It's so weird, and whoever's buying these autographed pictures too, like think about how people get them. Because it is really aggressive, and these women, they're just. Well, no matter what size they are, but like Livy, all three of them, these specific ones are just little petite things. Like they should have every right to be able to get on an airplane, go to baggage claim, whatever, and not be harassed.
It's so weird. The way people's boldness in these situations are so weird too. I mean, have you seen famous people at the airport? And usually it's like, look at it, it's a famous person, but you're like not trying to bother them at all. Like that would be so awkward to want to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would never bother a famous person unless it was Paul McCartney.
Sure.
I would probably have to say hello.
Right, but you wouldn't be like, give me your autograph,
no,
and then like
no.
intimidate him.
I would be
physically.
like, oh my God. So but these people, this is how they make their money. It's kind of like the paparazzi back before.
Sure.
Things became the way they were. Like these paparazzi in LA would be so aggressive, and they would, because the first person to get a picture of Jennifer Aniston after her, Brad Pitt breakup made probably $1 million, So these people they did not care that they were bothering somebody.
It's so weird. I want to know what an autograph is actually worth anymore.
I know, that's the thing. I'm like, who's buying who's buying these things? Is it like an overseas thing? Is it like other countries? I don't understand this.
Yeah, the art of celebrity is evolved so much because you can see them all the time right now because of the phones and stuff like that.
And they have their own Instagram and they have their own, so they control the narrative a lot, which is great.
I'm reading this biography about Gorgeous George. He was the first really famous wrestler.
Oh.
So people don't remember this probably. At the advent of television, like the late 40s, early 1950s, the number one thing on TV besides baseball was professional wrestling.
Really?
And he was the guy.
Okay.
He dyed his hair, bleach blonde, and he had all these extravagant robes that he would wear, and he was like this super snooty guy that was just better than everybody. And this biography is fascinating because people were obsessed with his celebrity. Like Muhammad Ali, the way he talks, the way he acts, that's from Gorgeous George. He stole that from Gorgeous George. Like, I'm too pretty, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That he straight up stole it from him. So Gorgeous George like invented this like art of celebrity where people couldn't really see people unless they went and saw them. But then TV made that sort of dull out because you could see them on TV. It's just interesting because like autographs used to be so valuable, because they were so rare, and then it became an industry. Like I have this Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams autograph. That was when this became like a business. If you had those guys' individual autographs from the 30s and the 40s, there were tens of thousands of dollars. But that picture exists, and I think they printed 10,000 copies of them and made those guys do it. So it's worth like $500, but it's not worth nearly what it would be if it was a one of a kind.
Right.
Like some people walk in here and they're like, "Holy cow, how do you have that?" I'm like, "Well, there's actually like 10,000 of these in the world. I just happen to have one of them.
Happen to have one, yeah.
10,000 is still good or whatever from a rarity standpoint, but if it was one, I mean, I'm not working here.
No.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, the art of an autograph. And like, what is Livia Dunn? I mean, Livia Dunn is she's certainly famous. Like she has 5 million followers on TikTok or whatever. But is like that person's autograph worth any money?
It's so strange.
And are you only buying the autograph because you want to look at the picture? And then there's a whole nother can of worms that's so weird. Like,
so I listened to this podcast called Fly on the Wall, and it's with David Spade and Dana Carvey, and they talk about how there's these autograph seekers that even come after them, and they've been able to sniff out like who is an actual fan just wanting an autograph versus who are these like scummy people who are selling their autographs online or whatever. And there's a whole business. It's very strange.
Wow.
I'd rather have a selfie than an autograph.
Totally.
Yeah.
Chicken Does Little Sports here on ESPN Radio. All right, what else you got?
All right. Our boy Croy Bierman.
Yes.
So he and Kim are getting divorced, as we know.
Yep.
When he married Kim, she had 2 children already, and I believe he adopted them. And then they went ahead and had 4 more.
They had twins, right?
Yes. So they have 4 other kids plus her 2.
The last time I interviewed him, this was like, well, it was the 50th anniversary of the Big Sky Conference. So it was 12 years ago. He had just had the twins.
Okay.
I was like, how's it going? He's like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. We got 6 kids, and 2 of them are newborn twins, and the other 2 are like under the age of 2. I was like, man, good luck, man.
Yeah, it's a no wonder they're divorced. But so one of their daughters, Ariana, I think is her name, she's on a new reality show, and she went on the show and said she's been on the TV since she was 5. I forgot how many Instagram followers she has, but she's been making money since she was a kid. Croy and Kim took all of her money. She has nothing left.
No way.
Yeah, nothing. And Kim calls her and her boyfriend for money all the time.
Whoa.
It's so messed up.
Yes, this is such a weird saga. It's been so interesting that it's landed on our front doorstep because, I mean, obviously Croy Bierman, an all-time great football player from the University of Montana, guy who played in the NFL for 10 years. We have been attempting to induct him into the Montana Football Hall of Fame. This year, he accepted the nomination finally. We've been trying to get a hold of him to just he has to say yes. And so he did. And then he was planned to come to Billings in a couple weeks. And he was planned to come on this radio show, and all of that fell through. So
it did?
Yeah, he's
not coming now.
He's not coming. He said he's going to Zoom in to do his acceptance speech or something. And
well,
I don't know.
He might not be able to afford to fly here.
I don't know him well. I cannot speak to anything about him whatsoever. All I know is that I think that it's sad that he doesn't have a connection to a place that I know that would love him that has nothing to do with any of this
right.
stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, if I was him, I'd try to reconnect here.
Right.
Because people would just be like, oh, yeah, you're Croy Bierman.
He might be embarrassed about what has become of his life.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
I hope he can find a real job. Like,
he's doing a podcast for a while. It was actually pretty good.
What was it about? Football?
It's football, yeah. And I don't know, his life as a football guy. And
so he was going to come on your show?
Yeah.
Is he going to Zoom in now?
No.
He won't even do an interview with you?
He won't. He's non-responsive.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Maybe he saw me talking smack. He's like, no.
We're not even talking smack, really, though.
No, I know.
It's just kind of how it goes.
It is what it is.
Play with fire, you get burned.
That's right.
All right, what else you got?
Last story. Reggie Bush is calling for the NFL to get rid of turf and bring back grass. Turf is too dangerous.
Interesting.
So
I think that's right.
So just a little history lesson for you.
Look at you.
I Googled, like, when did they start playing on turf? I mean, they've been doing it since the 60s.
Yeah.
So
not all turf's created equal. The AstroTurf of the old school is awful. It's like,
did you know how they got the name AstroTurf?
From the Astrodome?
Yeah, I just learned that this morning.
Yeah.
So the Houston Astros were the first, or no, Houston Astros were the first
Correct.
team to have
Right.
turf.
And this was like concrete with like a carpet pad. And
Yeah.
This is not good. This is is horrific.
Yeah.
Now the turf is made of. The turf was dangerous for two different reasons. It used to be you were playing on concrete, literally. Now it's because it's so fast. Now it's made up of like rubber tires.
Okay. Well, I guess some stadiums are doing hybrid of a little bit of both. I guess it's really expensive to have real grass, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a way to manufacture.
So Reggie Bush thinks there should be real grass, but how do you have real grass in
indoor
Minnesota?
Right.
Like where it's cold all the time.
I don't know if he's thought this through.
I don't think he has.
Yeah. But there's got to be some smart person out there who can create something that.
So like Arizona plays indoors because it's so hot.
Right.
But they have grass, and the stadium is they roll the grass outside and like grow it. It's like the field is on a roller. They grow it outside and then roll it in.
Oh, cool.
It's super cool, and the grass is super nice. But that's also in Arizona where it's nice every single day.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think there could be some sort of way to create turf that's like, or could you put it on? Okay, so you know what the gymnasts like run on during the floor exercise?
Sure.
Put that down, and then the turf.
Yeah, maybe.
Then you bounce a little bit.
Yeah, the bounce is part of it. It's just that grass is just you just don't run as fast on grass, and that's why they would be more safe.
Yeah.
Like the Grizz, for example, they during the summer and fall they practice on grass.
Yeah.
Even though they play on turf.
They play on turf
because
okay.
Coach Houck just thinks it's way safer, which I think it's true.
That the turf is safer.
No, that the grass is safer because you don't go as fast, so you don't hit each other as hard.
Right.
It's all about the speed of the collision.
Okay.
Grass is also more forgiving. You're not going to twist your knee like your cleats get caught in the turf.
Yeah.
Way more. So
grass
is just so hard to maintain.
Yeah.
I mean, you got kids at Big Sky.
Yeah.
That field used to be grass. That field looked like a dome and like potholes and everything over it because it was so hard to maintain.
For sure.
Now they got turf and it's way more efficient.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that makes total sense. But the other thing that Reggie Bush said is that NFL players aren't speaking up because they're afraid to lose their contract. So if more NFL players would step up and say, like, this is unsafe, we don't like it,
right,
it would be helpful. But because of the way the NFL is, like, all of a sudden they can just cut you out of your contract and, not pay you and you get traded every other year. So he said that's why more players aren't coming forward.
That could be true. It would be interesting to see if this catches traction. The real problem here is that the NFL is not just a warm weather sport. You have places all over the place where it's cold.
Yeah.
But they have grass. I'm trying to think of cold weather with grass. Buffalo, I think, has grass. That's one of the coldest places.
What does Chicago have?
They make it work. That's a really good question.
I'm sure it's turf.
I think it's grass, actually. I want to know, 14 of the 32 teams play on natural grass, including the Chicago Bears.
Oh, look at that.
Yep. Oh, I'm wrong. Buffalo has turf.
Oh.
Teams that play on natural grass. Arizona, Baltimore, that's relatively cold. Chicago's definitely cold. Cleveland's cold. Denver, if Denver can make it. Denver's got a lot of sun, though.
Yeah.
But it's still mile high. Jacksonville, Kansas City. Kansas City's kind of cold sometimes. Miami, of course, warm. Oh, New England. If New England can play on grass, then I think they can make it work.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, it's also cold. Pittsburgh, cold.
It seems like all the cold places have it.
Tampa Bay, Tennessee, Washington, Vegas, and the Green Bay. Green Bay it's called a hybrid field.
Yeah.
So they got a little grass, a little not. Same with Philly. But
those places can make it work, the others could too.
If Green Bay can make it work, if Pittsburgh, Philly, Chicago, and New England can make it work, I think everybody can make it work.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good topic.
Thanks.
Natural grass in the NFL.
What do you think?
I think that trying to promote incremental safety in football is foolish because I think that you're going to get hurt no matter what.
Okay, fair.
I mean, sure, less hurt would be good, but like only the NFL could have a comprehensive study on head injuries that then resulted in nothing. Because like I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm not trying to throw a pity party, but like if you played football at basically any level, varsity or above, you got head injuries.
For sure.
Like you smash your head all the time.
Right.
So what are we talking about with safety? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but also there's other body parts.
No,
that
totally
get hurt. But
well, everybody that's listening to this show that played high school football, I got scars all over my finger. I mean, and this is nothing. This is just playing at Big Sky High School. You know what I mean? Like, let alone if you play in college. In the NFL, it's an inherent risk that comes with the game, and I think that you just have to accept it. And I think like legislating safety into it is it going to promote the sustainability of the sport? I think that the sustainability of the sport's already entrenched because we love it so much. So
all right, there you go.
But I also think that football on grass I think it brings the elements into the game more, which I think is an important part of the game. So,
okay.
There you go. All right. Anything else?
I just would like to say a shout out to the Missoula High School kids for graduating
on
Saturday.
Rock on. Cool.
One of those graduates is my son.
Go Graduates.
So very proud of all these
How
kids.
many kids are graduating from Big Sky this year? Do you know the number?
A couple hundred, 300 maybe.
300?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a little smaller than it used to be,
Yeah.
but that's not surprising.
Yeah.
I'd love to know actually the graduating classes. If you have information on how many kids are graduating from each of the Missoula high schools, even if you just know one, text us 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. I'd like to know just the exact number of how many kids are graduating.
I haven't cried yet today, so that's good.
That's good. Well, you're about to spend a couple hours in the car with me going around on sales calls, so maybe you will. Thanks so much for being here.
All right, thanks.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. More right after this.
Schwab changed the tire game more than 70 years ago. Today, we still believe you should get more from less. Like more hustle, less hassle. More of the best service around, less of the runaround. Because we include America's best tire warranty in every tire we sell. So you get more unbeatable warranty, less charging you extra. It's why we're more than proud to say, you get more from less.
At Shields, we're anglers, endlessly seeking and refining techniques. We're hunters and storytellers, because we've been out there. We're experts that put products and gear to the test, so we can share that knowledge with you. At Shields, we understand your outdoor journey and the path you're on, because we walk it too, every step of the way. Shields, right there with you.
Bring the whole family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino. At the Stone of Accord, we use the freshest ingredients to create our homemade traditional Irish classics, fresh salads, and creative specials. Come enjoy our warm, family-friendly atmosphere. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair. Restaurant, liquor store, and casino.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 1033. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 1033.
102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Gotta go, but never fear. We are kicking you right into pregame coverage for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers coming up next right here on 102.9 ESPN Radio. If you missed anything in the show, you can always find it on the Nuanez Now podcast. It's brought to you by Elevated Tax and Accounting. We'll be back with you at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Rajim Seabrook in studio for Freestyle Friday. But that'll do it for us here today. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.